and I can
Okay.
always comment too if I need to. Awesome. So this is my client, Marty. Marty is amazing, and she is almost done with Nourished and Free, my 16-week mentorship program all about body love and intuitive eating and basically just finding that food freedom while having a good mindset around your health and wellness. So Marty, you are almost done. I have your finish date as May 31st. So that's coming up here, which is crazy.
Yeah, I know. It really flew.
Yeah.
Like every time I checked in, I'm like, oh, okay, I still got like 9 weeks. Oh, okay, I've still got 8 weeks. It sounds like such a long time. Can you hear that in the back?
Is he whining or she?
Like chewing on a dog toy. Is that super annoying?
It's fine.
I'll ignore if it gets crazy.
You're good.
But it just felt like, oh, I've got like forever and ever, and then it's almost done, you know?
Yeah. It's crazy. So, when you initially, when we talked on the phone and kind of went through that process of like finding out if this is a good fit for you, kind of like describe where you were at in that moment, I guess, and what had even led you up to that moment of reaching out for help.
Yeah. So where to start? I would say what I was really looking for in that moment was someone to lay out, which now that I say it out loud are like super basic questions. I just wanted to know, what am I supposed to eat? How much am I supposed to eat? When am I supposed to eat? Is eating before bed bad for you? Because I had heard that. Like, it was super basic questions. I felt like I hadn't really grasped it in like health class in high school. Obviously, I knew the food pyramid. I had seen that little plate with like the wedges of this is how much meat should be on your plate, this is so much veggies, but I didn't feel like I really had the tools to like craft a balanced plan for myself. So that's what I really wanted, someone to just spend time with me and lay out everything for me and work with me to help me to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had done that with a few people before, but I think the problem was we had never talked about like emotional eating. I found out through this program that I eat a lot when I'm bored. That's something that's very helpful to know. I also noticed that I had a finish my plate mentality, and I had no idea that, I don't know where that came from, but I feel like half the battle with that was even knowing it's there, because now that I know it's there, I can be aware of it and work on fixing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I started because I was just so confused. I mean, they sound like such simple questions now, but thinking back then, I didn't feel like I had a person to go to. So I went to the internet. And that is like, oh, okay, so Atkins is the answer. Oh no, keto's the answer. Oh no, Nutrisystem is the answer. No, Jenny Craig's the answer. It like depends on which article you're reading, who's sponsoring that article, who wrote that article. They might not even know what they're talking about. There's just so much like inconsistent information, and it gets so confusing. And I think I'm rambling, but basically the point that I was at, I was just like throwing my hands up like, okay, I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to eat whatever I want until I figure it out. And then I was probably there for like a few months, and I was like, God, I should really like find someone to help me figure this out, because I can't do that forever.
Yeah. And
What I mean,
yeah.
There's like no, like, where do you go for that information? Even the library.
Mm-hmm.
There's like all these doctors, and it just depends on like what kind of thing they're trying to sell.
Absolutely.
What their book is about. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's tricky. You see these credentials behind people's names, and it's easy to like just have trust immediately in what they're recommending. And then you dig a little bit and you're like, hang on, they're actually promoting something and they want to sell something here. And they just promoted like the opposite thing 6 months ago because they were selling a different product then. So something doesn't add up here.
It's like, no wonder we're all so confused though. No wonder, because none of us like the magical website that you can go to that actually lays out the truth for you, or tell you how you can find the truth, how to figure out what's good for you.
Right. Yeah. Tell me about your journey with Atkins.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I am almost 27. I think I started Atkins when I was like 16, and it's been on and off for like 10 years. And my parents have done Atkins in the past and seen a lot of success. So naturally I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to do that. My brain didn't put together. Yes, they saw a lot of success temporarily, but was that long-term success? Was that sustainable?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't quite figure out that it wasn't really sustainable. I just thought that I had a problem with like, what's it called? Self-control.
Mm-hmm.
Like the problem was me, because I've seen commercials and other people have lost 3 million pounds on Atkins, and it's just been amazing for them.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if you're watching this and you don't know what Atkins is you eliminate carbs and sugar almost entirely. So your body has like basically no what's it called, no choice but to like eat the fat on your body, basically, to use that for energy. But what you're doing is depriving yourself of literally everything. And like my downfall was I just felt so restricted. And then a birthday party would come up, or I remember Halloween and there was a Reese's peanut butter cup right in front of me, and I was like, I'm just gonna have one. And then that turns into you being like, realizing you were so deprived, and then you kind of go manic, and then you just eat everything in front of you, and then before you know it, you haven't been on Atkins for 2 weeks. So
Yeah. Yeah. And
it was,
Atkins is very similar to keto as well. They're kind of like, I feel like Atkins and keto are, depending on the person, they end up just doing the same thing, right?
yeah.
It's low carb, you know.
And you do see success, which is the scary part, because you get that like little taste of like, oh my God, I've lost 5 pounds already. But
Yeah.
then you don't realize that, oh, that was a lot of water weight.
Mm-hmm.
And then the time that you get to like a weight, it's just never enough. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah.
It's just not enough.
Yeah. And then what was your experience when you did go off of it for whatever reason? Like there was a birthday party that came up or a holiday that had candy involved. Like, how was your weight affected then?
It was like, I don't know how and maybe you can help me understand it, but all I know is that I would gain weight at like a super accelerated rate if
Mhm.
I went off for a little bit. And I I think it's because you're so deprived and your body is like so starved for like any type of nutrient that it just like freaks out and holds on to anything that you put in there. But all I know is that you're on Atkins and then you slip a little and you gain a ton of weight, and it's like all the weight that you've lost and then some, and
Mhm.
still not happy.
Right. Yeah. And how many times did you go through that cycle?
Oh my gosh. Um it's probably more than I could count. If I like really put my mind to it and got a pen and paper, I could probably figure it out, but we're probably talking like at least 5 over
Yeah.
the course of 10 years.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was, but that's kind of like, okay, so I spent 10 years not going to dinners with friends because I don't want to order something weird and like have to explain that I'm on Atkins and all of that. Like, what did I miss in that 10 years trying to freaking lose weight? And I didn't even lose weight. And that I don't feel any better than I did 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so upsetting. It really makes you think about one of my favorite things in this program was diet culture, and like really opening your eyes to that. And it's one of those things where once you see it, you can't unsee it. And
Yeah.
then you seeing it like everywhere and you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
wonder, no wonder,
Right.
you know.
Absolutely. I know once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's just there
Yeah.
forever. Yeah.
But another thing where it's like, well, once you're aware of it, that's like half the battle. Because I even hear it like from people that I love sometimes, and you know,
Yeah.
no wonder I thought that, because it's so like woven into our media and our TV and everything that everybody thinks that. So when you talk about it, you
Yeah.
get validated from people that you love because they also think that because they watched the same thing that you did.
Yeah.
It's super tricky.
Right. And I think what you said about going out to dinner with friends and not wanting to, or not going out to dinner with friends because you didn't want to
Yeah.
order these weird things. Like, I actually hear that a lot. And I've even had that in my own life where it's like, well, I don't want to go and then like order something weird, get a taco with no shell because we're not supposed to have carbs or like, whatever. And it really does, like, what you said was like, I just feel like I missed out on a lot because of that. And it's
Yeah.
like holding people back from enjoying their life. And so, like you brought up that diet culture, like for anybody watching this that doesn't know what that is, it's like this culture that we live in that is so intensely focused on this specific image that we're supposed to have, either as a man or a woman. And so we do whatever it takes to get to that image. So for a woman, it's that thin ideal. And for a man, it's that super muscular 8-pack ideal. And for women too, like that kind of Kardashian curvy, that's like in now as well, not necessarily size 0, but like also still very unattainable. Like there's some surgery involved there. So then we get sold all these supplements and all these diet programs, and we get told to do this diet and that diet and that diet in order to fit into that mold. And if we don't, then we're not very worthy and we're not very lovable and we'll never progress in our life. And so it's a very toxic culture. And that is something that I teach in Nourished and Free, is learning how to identify that and then how to be on guard against it so that it doesn't affect you.
Mhm.
So now that you've kind of like learned how to see diet culture and recognize when it's coming at you, how does that change your navigating, I guess, through life when diet culture tries to get at you? You feel any different?
Yeah, I do. It does kind of bum you out the first time you realize how it is everywhere, how often it is. But I definitely feel like the more that you see it and the more that you get used to it, what am I trying to say? It's almost like you can acknowledge it and move on, and you that you have the information. Like I saw these treats that said like guilt-free chocolate cookie dough cupcake or whatever it was. And I'm like, guilt-free? Well, that implies that I should feel guilty for eating things like that aren't made by your company. And then you just kind of acknowledge like how weird that is and like kind of how sad that is that that's a marketing tactic that they think works.
It does work.
Yeah. And then I guess you kind of just acknowledge it and you're like, well, that's not really correct, is it? And then you can just kind of move on.
Yeah.
So I do feel like but I feel like before that would have been something that I just noticed and internalized and put in my little file saying, oh yeah, cookie dough is bad for you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
feel like I said, once you see it and understand it, you can't unsee it, but that's kind of good because it's pretty constant reassurance of what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So before, would something like that kind of affect you internally?
Yeah, especially if it was something that someone said to me. I can't think of,
Mm-hmm.
I know it happened, but I can't think of a specific time. But if someone would have said something like, oh, something about carbs while I have like a plate full of carbs in front of me, I might have like really internalized that and like kind of taken offense to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But no, they're just speaking from like a diet culture brain because they're being told that keto's the hot thing right now and carbs are the devil. So nobody should eat carbs. But I'm fully aware that for me, carbs can be completely a part of a balanced meal and a balanced diet in general. It's but yeah, to answer your question, that would have definitely affected me and I probably would have like pushed the plate away and been done with it. But now I can move on with the knowledge that no, it's fine because it's part of what I'm doing and just move
Yeah.
on. It's tough though. That's what I'm like. I'm trying to verbalize. It is still difficult and every day is a work in progress, at least for me, because I'm a constant work in progress, learning new things about myself every day. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a learning curve because you're trained to pick up on this stuff for so long.
Right.
Learning curve.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. It's not an overnight change, right? Like this isn't a quick fix thing that we can just like undo really quickly or drink a couple of shakes and everything's okay.
Yeah.
So it definitely like there's lots of unlearning and then relearning to do. So kind of thinking about that and where you're at now, like how confident do you feel that going forward you can continue to implement those things in your life to my daughter's crying, but don't worry, my husband's here. Um, how confident do you feel that you can continue to change that mindset when those things come up and are tempting to feel negative about yourself?
Yeah, I do feel more confident. I think that's what I was trying to get at is the more that you see it, the more confident that you feel in yourself and in your knowledge. And it's almost like the more practice that you have to go, oh yeah, that's something that I know. And that's something that I know isn't true. And um, I definitely feel like now that I have this knowledge, I'm just going to continue to notice it in my own life and in commercials and in what I see on Instagram and what my influencers are trying to sell me. And there is like an odd sense of peace. I feel like I'm rambling. There is an odd sense of peace that comes with it though, because you're so confused for so long and everybody's telling you different things. And this worked for Kylie Jenner and this worked for this person, but it's really just about, um, God, it's so hard to put into words, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You're doing a good job though.
Thanks, I'm trying.
You are.
It's, yeah, just because it's said by someone that you really like or that you follow or that you love doesn't mean that it's true. And I feel like that has never been more obvious than after learning about all this diet culture stuff. You know, even your own thoughts, even when you're like, oh, I shouldn't have that. And then you have to stop and think like, why did I say that to myself? Why do I feel like I can't have that? And then you remember somebody in 8th grade said something to you about chocolate chip cookies and you've thought that ever since. It's like a real process. And even your own thoughts can come sneaking in and you're like, where'd that diet culture come from? I thought I worked on that. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
that
absolutely.
question was,
What's that?
I forgot what your initial question was. Was
Um,
it moving forward?
Yeah, like how confident do you feel that you can continue to have
Yeah.
this going forward, and take this mentality with you? But I think you
Yeah.
pretty much answered that.
Yeah. I feel very confident is what I was trying to get at.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So what would you say? So you came from, this background of like cycling through Atkins, right? And yo-yo dieting in a sense where you yo-yoed onto it and then off of it and then back onto it, right? And your weight was cycling as well, where you'd lose the weight initially through the initial process of the diet, and then couldn't stick with it, couldn't sustain it, so the weight would come back, and you'd be tempted to go back on the diet again, and then do that. So what would you say to somebody that is like struggling with that same thing, where they're like stuck in this cycle of being unhappy with their body image and being unhappy with their weight, and they're considering getting out of that?
Yeah. So something that you said in our initial consultation that really stuck with me and like it was a light bulb moment. You said very innocently, like, okay, well, what's worked for you and what hasn't worked for you in the past? So what do you want to focus on? And I said, oh, well, Atkins has worked for me in the past. And you go, oh, well, tell me more about that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've lost a ton of weight on that. And then I go, well, I mean, I guess I gained it all back, but I lost a ton of weight on that. Trust me there. You're like, well, would you say that that really worked for you then? Because you said you gained it all back. And I was like, huh. It like was the first time I felt so silly, like that I had convinced myself that Atkins was the way to go. I mean, obviously I was 10 years and I kept going back to it like, no, this time it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the first, like, yeah, I guess she's got a point. It hasn't really worked before technically.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was because there's all the deprivation going on, but there was also things that Atkins was never going to solve for me, like emotional eating or all the psychological stuff that goes into like your eating choices. So I would say to anyone, if you feel like there's any hint of like maybe emotional things playing into your choices, or maybe some disordered mental games going into your choices, I think that's when it's time to just see a professional. Because I think some things are just so big. And like I've said, there's things that I didn't even realize that I had, like this, like bored eating and this finish my plate mentality. Didn't even know those were there. And it took like really talking with someone for a long time for me to even realize they were there. So I think if you feel like there's any hint of something that you might not be able to work through by yourself, I think that's probably when it's time to just invest in yourself, in the sense of like, how, employing someone isn't the right word. Oh shoot, my battery just went out. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Employing someone isn't the right word, but like
Hiring someone.
okay?
Yeah.
Investing in yourself, in the sense that like getting someone that can really tell you what's going on with yourself, that's seen it before, that I don't know, can just help you navigate it, because it feels so impossible to navigate by yourself. It really,
Yeah. Yeah.
does that all make sense? I feel like this is such,
Does. No, you're so helpful. I know it feels like rambling to you, but it's actually like super helpful.
this
What do
is
you,
also stuff that I've like recently learned within the past few months. So I'm like still kind of processing it myself
yeah.
and also trying to explain it.
No, I love it. I love it. What do you think is different about Nourished and Free compared to anything else you've tried?
Well, definitely, like I said, the emotional, the stuff that's just not ever addressed in diets, because I feel like the thing with diets is it's very like, oh, well, this works if you like stick to it, and this works if you commit to it, and if you have the self-control, this will work for you. But it's like, it's not always about that. You might just be going through a breakup and you want to eat and you don't want to feel your feelings, and like there's other things that could be going on that aren't about your self-control, that are so hard to like recognize, especially if you eat your feelings like I did, which is, it's so easy to just be like, I feel sad and I don't want to feel that way anymore. I'm going to go get a Diet Coke and an ice cream.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need an outside perspective to go, do you really want that right now? Like, what are you feeling? Let's talk about that. Let's start there. And if you still want it after that, and you really do want it, then you can, indulge. So once again, what was the question?
How do you think it's different? But you answered that. Yeah. Like having someone there to work through that emotional side and the psychological side.
Also, the diet culture thing. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
Talking about that. Also, the health at every size thing is totally different, because
Mm-hmm.
Jenny Craig, the size is like, I don't know, like an 8. It's something low, whereas that might not be your biological appropriate weight, but Jenny Craig says that should be your weight, because that's what, I don't know, is what they decided in some board meeting, but that might not be right for you, you know?
Yeah.
So that's another thing I learned here, is like, you've got to let go. I was really struggling with like, oh, if I could just get to like this size X, then I would be like healthy. I would be everyone would be happy if I was this size. But that might not be my biologically, I'm never going to be a size 0 because I'm almost 6 feet tall, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that's never addressed in like diets, but is addressed here, is
Mm-hmm.
finding biologically appropriate weight, as opposed to whatever weight you're trying to be. Because even though you want to be 70 pounds, your body does not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I hope you don't want to be 70 pounds at almost 6 feet tall.
Oh my
we need to have a couple more meetings.
I don't want to be. I tried to pick a totally random number, because there's no shame in like having like a goal weight in your head.
Yeah.
I tried to pick like a super unattainable number, but
I love it. How do you feel in your body now versus how you felt before you started?
way better. I have way more confidence in it now, especially since I started working out, which I never wanted to do before. Um, I feel more in tune with it. I think, I don't remember if I've already said this, but when you're doing things like Atkins, you kind of learn to not listen to it, because you're supposed to eat X amount of calories a day or X amount of carbs. And once you hit that, if your body is starving and it's saying, give me something, you're supposed to ignore it because you've hit your X number of carbs or whatever, which is super not great. So I definitely had to relearn how to listen to it and in turn respect it. And if it's hungry or if it's thirsty, that means it's time to provide it with something that it's asking for. So it's a weird, definitely another thing where you have to deprogram how you're listening to your body and then reprogram yourself. Another one of those, but I definitely trust it more. I think that I definitely respect it more because denying it food when it's starving is not respecting it. So I think this is the start of a beautiful relationship is what I'm trying to say, of me respecting my body,
I love that.
respecting me back and not.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I think if I remember correctly, when we first talked, like you were hoping for weight loss, right? And that hasn't necessarily happened, but you still feel better and you feel more confident, right?
Yeah. We even talked about that when, for people watching, I have to weigh myself once a month. It's a whole thing for my dog. But I was weighing and I wasn't losing any weight, but I was telling Michelle, I was like looking in the mirror, like, all right, I don't know what's different, but something's different. I think it was
Yeah.
just a mentality thing of like me totally accepting, I don't know, accepting what I got, accepting my body has gotten me through a global pandemic. You know what I mean? It's gotten me to 27 years. It's still going. I don't have any like debilitating, crazy, like my body does a lot for me. And for me to just be like, I want to lose weight. And that's why I'm mad at it feels silly once you really like put it into black and white. You know what I mean?
But that's diet culture, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it
Yeah.
teaches you to feel like.
But I don't look like Kylie Jenner, but I'm not acknowledging that I woke up this morning and I'm still breathing and I don't have COVID and all of that good stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So good. So good. What has been your favorite part of Nourished and Free?
I think we've covered a lot of it. I really like the diet culture part.
Yeah.
That's like my big eye-opening one. I think the self-care one was also really good because things that I thought were self-care really weren't. And oh my gosh, you guys, I got a massage for the first time because that was recommended by Michelle. So would recommend. Massages are so great. I don't feel like I feel like all of it. Am I forgetting anything? I probably am. There's so much information in there.
Yeah, I kind of pack it with lots of fun stuff.
Yeah.
That's a good sign though, if you can't think of.
Yeah. I would say, okay, I would say diet culture and self-care and nutrition, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Love
Not
it.
in this order.
One more thing I want to ask, because I think this is fairly recent for you and something we need to celebrate, is your relationship with exercise. Tell the fam about your relationship with exercise.
Okay, so I was a couch potato for sure. I played soccer in middle school, but after that, I think I was like, I've had enough running for my lifetime. I never want to see anything ever again. So I like was not interested in exercising for a really long time. And I could tell in my body, but I kind of wrote it off as like, well, if I lost weight, I wouldn't feel so like sluggish all the time. No, it's what I needed to do was move. And so I joined a gym and I started swimming and I got a cute new swimsuit and I started feeling a little bit better. And recently I started getting up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym. And I feel like I kind of laugh about it because I told Michelle, I'm like, I always thought those people were like, okay, I'm sure that this,
Yeah.
like trying to prove, okay, you go to gym at 5 a.m. But it actually is so great. I wake up and I feel so in control and like, oh yeah, I'm getting this stuff done before I even get to work. I feel so productive. So yeah, that's a new thing that I really like. And I think I'm going to I know I'm going to keep doing it. I don't know about the 5 a.m. forever and ever, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to keep moving because it just makes you feel so much better. I don't
Mhm.
know.
I love it. And what do you think is your motivation now for moving?
To feel better for sure. After I started, I realized that it feels so silly, but I didn't realize how much my body wanted to move until I actually did it. And
Mhm.
then I was like, oh, this pain in my thigh is gone. Like, I think my body was like desperately nudging me to like get off the couch.
Yeah.
So it's definitely feeling better. It also is, I've been starting to swim as like a sort of meditation. So that feels better too, because I'm always on my phone. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, it's still a new journey. So I don't have a ton of insight, but I definitely know that it feels good. My body feels better for it. So
Your self-care game is strong, my friend.
yeah.
Totally.
He's
I'm so proud of you. You've been such a dream to work with, and I'm excited to continue to be connected as you move forward in this like new lifestyle. Like you have a new lifestyle, literally new lifestyle.
yeah. I'm a 5 a.m. gym girl, Michelle.
And
Who
I didn't even tell you to do that. That was all you.
God, who am I?
You are a new person, and it is such an honor to watch you blossom like this and transform. I'm obsessed.
Yeah, it's wild. January. It's only been like 4 months.
hmm
Wow.
Yeah. And like, can you imagine where you were 4 months ago? Would you have ever imagined that you'd be where you are now?
No, probably not. No, I probably would be on another cycle of Atkins right about now. Maybe down 10 pounds and feeling like I would punch somebody in the face for a bite of ice cream. That's probably where I'd be right now.
Yeah. And then soon on the way back up to regaining the 10 pounds.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
then some. I'd
Yeah.
be pissed about it.
Yep. Well, I'm so glad that you found me. And I mean, this has been so awesome to just sit here and celebrate you. For anybody watching this, if you are somewhere that you can write a comment, I want you to just write a comment about whatever about Marti's story stuck out to you and what you relate to, and just celebrate her for all of the progress that she's had and this new beautiful woman that she's turning into with all the confidence in the world. And I'm so proud of her. If you are watching this and you feel like, man, I need to get some help, like Marti was saying, you need to reach out and get some professional help to help guide you through the emotional and psychological side of eating, and you want to get off of that cycle, then please book a call with me and let's chat and let's see if I can help you and if Nourished and Free is the right fit for you. So um, so much thanks to you, Marti, for trusting me with your health and wellness journey and for taking the time.
Can I say one more thing that I forgot to say?
Totally.
If you're super scared about what's going to come up, if you're thinking about it, but you're like, I'm desperately scared of what's going to come up when we start talking about emotions, dude, just do it. You'll get through it. I was super nervous of like, do you know what I mean? Where you're like, I kind of don't want to start something so big because I'm scared of like change, or I'm scared that it's not going to work. What happens if it doesn't work? I had all of those thoughts too, of like every reason in the book for me to not start, because I don't know, I was happy where I was.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't love the idea of like, I'm just scared of change. I'm a person that's scared of change.
Mm-hmm.
To me, but I would get over it because it's necessary. I was the person that was like, oh, I'll figure it out someday. I'll figure it out someday. I'll figure it out someday. It's someday,
Yeah, I love that. Change is scary. And, I definitely don't sugarcoat things. Like it is hard to enter into that and to enter into your emotions and what is going on behind your choices. But it's necessary, and that, it's going to get worse before it gets better for sure. And you're living proof of that, right? Like things were hard for you. You had some weeks where you were like, man, I'm just struggling. Like this is a lot for me to process and think about. And now you're
Yeah.
just like killing it in the game. Like you're killing it at life, you know?
Okay, that was all I needed to say.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. I better go feed my baby girl some dinner.
Okay.
And it was so good to check in like this. I love getting to celebrate you. We'll chat soon, okay?
Okay.
Awesome, Marty. Have a good week.
Thanks. You too. Bye.